Welcome to Pedal to the Metal Gardening, where in our last video, I put together these railing planters on my deck at the back of the house. Today, we're moving to the front to work on this wavy garden bed that was dug out last year. I used flexible wooden edging to create this organic flowing shape instead of a straight line that was here before. Originally, the front had two separate beds at each end of the yard, but we connected them by digging out the middle section, so now the bed wraps around the entire front. I really love how this redesign reshaped the front landscape and can't wait to get planting this year. So far, the only plants I've added in the front are these large planters, which are perfect for the space. They're currently filled with petunias, coleus, sweet potato vines, and fuchsia. For the garden bed, we're going to plant some similar flowers, lots of petunias, and other colorful blooms to match. Day 1 starts with planting 6 Christina azalea bushes with hot pink blooms that arrive in early spring. First, I'm clearing out some mums that came back from last year, but not very strong. These azaleas will fill the space much better and come back year after year. I'm spacing them evenly throughout the bed, making sure everything looks balanced before planting. Each bush comes with a tag showing its name and description, but I always remove those before putting them in the ground so they don't blow away or get buried. Once the tags are off, it's time to start digging holes and getting each azalea into the ground. Now that the holes are dug and the bushes are in place, it's time to grab the hose and start filling each hole with water. I like to do this before planting because it helps get rid of air pockets, improves drainage, and gives a root ball a good drink before it goes into the ground. This step is especially important during hot, dry weather, which we get a lot of here. This part of the house also gets full sun almost all day, so I want to make sure that these bushes establish well. Plus, when I picked them up at Lowe's, they were looking a little dry, so this will give them the best start possible. Once each hole is about halfway filled with water, I go ahead and backfill the soil around each bush. I pack the soil just enough to keep the plants steady, while still leaving the roots space to spread and breathe. Now that all of the bushes are planted, it's time to deal with the mums we pulled out earlier. I replanted one in a spot where another mum didn't come back as strong. It looked a lot healthier, so it was a good swap. The rest I loaded into my cart and hauled over to the woods on the side of the house to dump. Unfortunately, while I was unloading them, the cart gave out, the pin holding the wheel popped off and disappeared into the leaves. I searched around but never found it, so the cart is retired for now. Luckily, I just picked up a new wheelbarrow that I'll be using from here on out, but for today, the last step is giving all these bushes a good soak on top of the water already in their holes. And with that, day 1 of this front garden build is in the books. Starting off day 2, I've already taken a trip to the garden center and picked up all the flowers we'll be planting today. This haul includes blue lobelia, both hot and light pink snapdragons, striped and solid pink petunias, and last but not least, a colorful mix of supercells in purple, black, pink, and yellow. But before we dive into planting though, it's time to tackle some lawn care. I'll be getting some help mowing the lawn while I test out my new Ego 56-volt weed whacker that I picked up earlier this year. I'm especially excited to see how it handles trimming along the curves of this wavy edging design. This is a battery-powered tool that came with a charger, and I also bought an additional battery that fits my leaf blower as well. Overall, I really like how heavy-duty this weed whacker is without being overly bulky or hard to maneuver, especially going around all of these curves. Once the lawn was taken care of, it was time to throw on my gloves and start weeding the entire bed. I knew it would be time consuming, but I wanted to get out as many weeds as possible now. That way, when I put the preen down later, it'll cut back on the upkeep and save me work the rest of the summer. As I reached the last end of the garden bed, I realized that there was still a lot of mulch left over from last year. I had removed quite a bit beforehand, but this side still had plenty remaining. Looking at this hydrangea bush, it seems like the deer have been treating it as their daily snack. You could see where they've chewed off a lot of the green stalks, most of which probably held this year's buds. So unfortunately, we might not be getting any flowers from this one. Still, I'm going to go through and trim down all the dead stalks with no new growth. While I was at it, I also cleaned up this Boston fern. I had it indoors all winter, barely watered it, and then planted it out here in the soil. It was looking a little rough, but a quick cleanup should give it a fresh start and it should promote a lot of new growth throughout the summer. Now that we've finished cleaning up those plants, the entire bed is officially weeded and cleared out. From start to finish, this took about 3 hours, including everything from pulling weeds and loosening soil to dumping mulch and pruning plants. The next step is to remove all the flower tags so none accidentally get planted along with them. In total, there are 20 tags between cell packs and 6-inch pots, which I'll keep so that at the end of the year I know exactly how many flowers I added to my gardens each season. After that, it's time to start placing the flowers around the bed to get a feel for the layout and create one cohesive, balanced landscape. These snapdragons were extremely root-bound and in desperate need of getting in the soil where they could spread out its roots. They were very hard to pull apart, but I wanted just one snapdragon, maybe two, in each curve on the inside of the garden bed. Therefore, they all needed to be pulled apart. I really like how everything is laid out, but I could already tell that I'll need to make another trip to the garden center for more flowers. But for now, it's time to get these ones in the soil since they're already in place and ready to be planted. of the flowers I have are now planted in the ground. As you can see, I tried to line everything up straight down each side, but I'll definitely need to pick up some more Snapdragons to keep the pattern going along the right side. But for now, I'm going to move on to spreading all of the preen across the entire garden bed. That way, it'll help prevent weeds from popping up throughout the season, and if I run out halfway through, I'll be able to pick some up during my garden center trip. It actually started raining on me here, so this is the perfect time to get it done quickly and let the rain water into the soil when I run to the garden center to pick up more Snapdragons. Wrapping up for the day, we made a lot of progress, but the weather has stopped cooperating with us. Tomorrow we'll plant the additional flowers, mulch the entire bed, and hopefully complete this garden bed build. Starting off day 3, the weather has finally cleared up, and I picked up additional flowers I needed to complete the bed. Just like before, I began by laying them out, continuing the same pattern along the curves all the way down the side. I did have a few extras, so I tucked them in at the very end, but for the most part, the design stayed the same. Now that we had everything laid out, it was time to get planting once again. Now that all the flowers are officially planted, it's time to move on to the next big step, getting the garden bed fully mulched. First, I'm going to grab all of our mulch bags and line them up along the edge of the grass and the garden bed so everything is within reach. It's time to do some heavy lifting, since I'll have to carry each bag from the car and get it into place. Once they're all set up, we could start spreading the mulch across the entire bed, creating a clean, finished look, while also helping protect the soil and keep weeds at bay throughout the season. One thing I really like about this mulch is that it's shredded, with much smaller pieces than I usually get. I think this will give the bed a cleaner, more polished look. I'm not a fan of big chunks of wood sticking out, they always feel like a sore thumb, so this should create one consistent, even layer of mulch across the entire bed. As I work, I want to make sure that I'm laying down a consistent layer of mulch across the entire bed. This ensures that when it rains, there won't be any bare spots or washout. Consistency is key. Not only does it prevent dirt from showing through, but it also helps control weeds and retain moisture so the flowers can thrive. this point, we're just over halfway through and I need to make another trip to Lowe's for an additional load of mulch. On my first trip, I packed as much as I could into my car so there was no way to avoid a second run. Next year, I'm thinking I might just get a truckload and have it dumped, spreading it out with a shovel instead of carrying all these bags. But honestly, these bags were only $1 each at Lowe's at the time, so the cost difference wasn't really significant, and it wouldn't have been much cheaper if I did go that route. Now that the back corner is finished, the entire bed is officially mulched. Altogether, this took me about 3 hours, not even counting the extra trip to Lowe's for another load. With that done, it's time to move on to the finishing touches. One of those is adding stake lights. I'll be using the Hampton Bay Terrence Park LED path lights, lining them along the edges of the bed. They're quick to assemble, and I'm mixing a few that were here from last year with some fresh ones I just unboxed. The batteries are still all good, so now it's just a matter of spacing them evenly throughout the garden. Once all the lights were in, it's time to add any decorations that I either had in the garden beforehand or am adding for the first time. After cleaning up and putting the final decoration in place, this garden bed build is officially complete. Over the past 3 days, I've put a lot of time and effort into this project and I'm really happy with how it all came together. If you'd like to see how big these flowers really get over the summer, be sure to stick around until the end. And as always, thank you for watching.